Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Luminary Podcast. I am your host. My name is Annie Perry. I am a professional psychic channel, a seer, spirituality manifestation teacher, multidimensional being of light, just like you. Welcome, everyone. It has been such a homecoming to put out that last episode after, going through a really challenging time in my life, dealing with a physical illness that literally completely incapacitated me. And just getting to do that episode was such a home run moment for me, for my body, for my energy, and to just be like, you've got to be in the zone when you're doing a podcast. The podcast is all about the zone, right? And so to just be able to get into the zone, it felt like such a home run moment. And I put it out there and I was like, I really hope there's still someone out there listening. I felt like E.T., I'm trying to phone home, and you guys just blew me away with your love, with your support, with how happy you were that not only was the podcast back and you're getting this information and these activations, but also you're really personal love for me. And I am not someone who comes from a background of lovey-doveyness or affection. I've shared a lot of my story about how I grew up, and I just had to have this moment 2 nights ago where I was like, I feel like there is this tidal wave that wants to come into my field. And Ariel, one of my guides, was like, that tidal wave that you feel is all of this love that people want to give to you that you're not used to receiving. And it's totally okay and safe for you to just let it all in. And so I just want to say thank you, because so much of that, 90% of that, comes from you guys. And again, it's been a really challenging time, not just in my life, but in the collective in general. We have had a challenging past week, just a few days since I did that last episode, the prelude episode. We have had a really challenging energetic week. We've had a lot of solar flares. We had this super moon, and the moon doesn't really get me that often anymore, but this one really, really got me. It was a super moon in the sign of Aries, so it had all of this fiery leadership energy, and honestly, there have been high highs and low lows. And honestly, I feel like that could just be the theme of this entire year. It's your highest highs and your lowest lows, and let's put them all in 1 year and just see how you do, kids. It's been really intense. I do my best to check in with you guys in real time daily, usually on Instagram stories. You can come hang out with me there. My handle is @eternal_Annie. And I like to, ask questions, put up question boxes on my stories and ask you guys, how are you feeling? Here's the energy of the day. This is what I'm reading in the collective. This is what's coming through from my channel, which is my little antenna that I put out there. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on in the collective? And you guys have told me so many similar stories just in the last 6 months, the last year, the last 7 days, about how it is high, high, low, low, super, super polarizing. It's almost like you are being throttled back and forth, back and forth. It's your higher self is trying to come in and to live as your new earth self and your new earth awareness. And then the lower mind and the lower self is nah, fuck you. I'm going to take over again. It's just we're at such a boiling point for integration. And I wanted to start there because that's the energy that has been in the field over the last 7 days. That might be the energy that you are experiencing when you find this podcast, wherever that may be in the future. And I just want to normalize it for right now, especially right now during Ascension. A lot of the channeling that I'm doing is around what is coming down the pipeline for the new earth, for humanity, for Ascension, and like what can we actually expect so that we're getting a little bit more ahead of this, because we are at the skill level now in Ascension where we can start to anticipate, we can start to use all of our skills to be dynamic and to anticipate what is coming down the pipeline and really use all of these skills that we have been growing and honing all of these years since whenever your awakening started. And I think it's really important to remember too that no one is exempt. I'm not exempt just because I choose to be a spirituality teacher. I'm not exempt because I choose to be a channel, because I choose to use these gifts for the collective. I'm not exempt from any of that. And I hope you see and realize and understand that absolutely none of your teachers, my mentors, no matter how long they've been doing this, none of them are exempt. In fact, just today I was listening to one of Lee Harris, and he's one of my favorite channels, super, super high frequency, very, very pure, not uppity, grounded, down to earth, but still just has this purity from channeling disease for over 20 years. So there's a lot of refinement in his energy field. And I was listening to his October energy update. Every month he does an energy update on his YouTube channel, and I think it's called Lee Harris Energy. And Lee was just it was just talking about some of these things that I had already been tapping into and considering to share with my community. And I was like, okay, great, we're on the same wavelength. We're picking up the same things in the collective field. And you could really feel in Lee's energy that he was like, this up and down energy and, the intensity that we are in Ascension right now is asking all of us, and himself included. So he's been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for about 5 years. It's asking all of us to use every skill that you have in your toolbox to be dynamic. And that's really the word that keeps coming into my own field and into my own mind when I think about like, how should we be right now? My guides are like, be dynamic, be dynamic. Don't be afraid to be all 3D. And then for the next minute to just, sit there and take a moment for yourself and channel into the higher dimensions and then go cook yourself some dinner and be in the 3D. Don't be afraid to be dynamic, because you are experiencing this kind of throttling, this kind of yanking you up and down, up and down, up and down, as the new earth tries to assimilate in, as the old earth energy attempts to be dissolved and resolved. So none of us are exempt no matter how long we've been doing this. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're not gaslighting yourself when you are thinking about how intense everything is. If you're sitting there and you're having a moment and you're like, this is just too fucking hard for me right now, that is real. You are actually experiencing how challenging that is. I had that moment yesterday. I had a moment yesterday where I was like, it seems like everything's going so good. I'm starting to like really get back up on my feet here. I'm starting to really get some momentum with a lot of my projects and things that I like to do. I actually like to do all of this stuff. To me, this isn't really work, even though it is my work. This is the stuff that even if I had to work a career job somewhere else for someone else, I would still like come home and do all of these little projects and this podcast and like write all of this and channel all of this. I would literally do that because I love it so much. But I had this moment yesterday where it just felt like there was 10 tons of bricks on top of me. And I just told my guides, this is way too hard. This is too hard. Like everything all at once. This is way too hard. Obviously, I won't burden everyone with all of the details of my entire life, but I had that moment of literally telling my guides, I think I'm breaking because I don't think I can handle this. And they were like, what you are saying and experiencing is true. That is true. This is the hardest it's ever been. But also, you're super qualified to be here. They always tell me that, and I try to tell you guys that as much as possible. Like literally your galactic resume says you are super qualified to be here. You're super qualified for this challenge. You can handle this. And I just had this moment of being like, oh, I get what they're saying. They're validating the intensity that I'm experiencing without invalidating it, without saying like it's all in your mind, you just need to rise higher, you just need to get into the 1200th dimension and then you'll be good. They didn't try to they've never invalidated anything that I've ever experienced, but they always offer me additional perspectives. And that's what they were doing in that moment, and what I want to do for you as we continue to go deeper into this ascension and into these years between 2025 and 2029, when we are going to see polarity deepen, and the polarity is going to reflect not just in the external, but also in our internal worlds. Inside of our own lives, where it's like, this is going great, this is on fire, this is absolute shit, this is the best it's ever been. And all of that is happening in 1 hour, in 60 minutes of your day. You're high as a kite and then you're crying on the bathroom floor, and all of that happened. And my guides are like, what you're feeling is real. That is true, but also, if you remembered, if you could accept, if you could think about for a moment how qualified you are to be here, what would your response to that challenge be? Because in that moment, my response was literally like, I can't handle this. This is way too much for me. But as I considered this additional perspective, and they always tell me, you are the Lightbringer, right? That's one of my little like galactic names, and we all have these. And I'm just especially fond of mine because I feel like it's an activation code. And they're always telling me like, you are the Lightbringer, and like so are they. They are too, and like you are too. But when they say it to me like that, they're like trying to get me to remember it about me, about my identity that I'm experiencing inside this polarized 3D, 4D, 5D earth mush that we're living in right now. They're like trying to get me to remember that part of me. And I realized like, oh yeah, this is really fucking hard. This is the hardest it's ever been. But you would never have sent me here if I wasn't good enough to handle it. So I can either decide I'm good enough to handle it. It's not going to break me. It's not going to snap me in two. I'm very bendy. I'm very flexible. I can bounce back. I'm bouncy. I'm very bouncy. I'm bouncing back from an illness that tried to kill me. I'm very bouncy. I can either recognize my ability to bounce back, to be flexible without being broken, while also acknowledging this is really fucking hard. No one's trying to invalidate that. Thank God, because we don't need any more of that on this planet. You don't need to go into the 1200th dimension to deal with it. Where it's happening is right here in the mesh, in the mush of 3D, 4D, 5D. That's all happening simultaneously at once. We're literally learning how to juggle here. And once I had that, I literally get up from bathroom floor crying. Okay, it was bedroom floor crying. But I get up from bedroom floor crying and I'm like, actually, I'm very bouncy. Actually, this is not going to be the thing that breaks me. And you know what I've decided? Nothing in this lifetime is ever going to break me, because I do have a death date. I do have a day where I'm leaving this planet, and that's going to be that. And I would never have set myself up for this if there was some other possibility. Like, this is just going to be so hard. It's just going to take you out right here, right now. Nope. If I'm not outside of this body, I'm inside and I'm all in, and I'm recognizing my own bounciness and my own flexibility and my own ability to not let these challenges break me. And I feel right now, even though that's not what I planned at all to talk about at the beginning of this episode, and not really what this entire episode is about, it feels like a message that really wanted to come through. So I think whenever you are listening to this, at whatever point in time, these messages are timeless. They're meant for you. They're channeled information from my soul cosmic memory, but also from the collective and from your part in that collective. So there is a part of you that needed to hear that. You needed to remember that you're fucking bouncy, okay? You're bouncy. You can bounce back from it. You've made it through 100% of all the challenging things that have happened. And even if you are shit deep, and I hope this isn't your first time listening to the podcast and you were hoping for a really like righteous spiritual teacher up on some like heaven's pedestal that never curses. I live in this planet at this time. Okay, so if you're like shit deep in something right now in your life, you have 100% track record of getting through it, of being able to bounce back. You have 100% track record, and you're so qualified to be here, which means you wrote the game. And I think it's really hard for us to get into that mentality. We wrote the game, like we wrote the game, but then we wiped our memory and put ourselves inside the game, but we still wrote it. And it's like, you don't hate yourself. When you're outside of this body, you're just complete love. So all of it's leading you back there. And but you have to decide, right? Because the mind can really crush you. The mind can go to a place of absolute fucking despair. And I was so there, especially in the depths of my illness when I had no brain chemicals. There was nothing. There was no dopamine. There was no serotonin. There was nothing to cling on to. My body's like, we don't have those anymore. They're all gone. Like everything's getting reset. Everything's emptied out. There's nothing here. And I was like, holy shit. Like I'm free falling through the cosmos. There's nothing out here. There's nothing to grab onto. I have felt the absolute bottomless hole of hell that your mind can come up with in those moments when everything is really, really fucking hard. And if you listen to the last episode, the prelude, and if you follow me on Instagram, you will know that in this last 7 days of just my life, this little microcosm that we're using as an example, I have felt such ecstasy, literally like levitating, okay? Levitating out of my body, just like 1200th dimension, only it showed up and it was like, you're the one I want. And I'm like, I'm flying so high. And then just yesterday, it was 8 days, okay, after super high levitation, ecstasy, total rapture inside of my body. I talked about it on the last episode. And then yesterday it was just like, you're plummeting all the way down. The best we can do right now, normalize, validate, qualify. Normalize, there's going to be some highs and lows. We're not all the way out of the tunnel yet with this whole polarity thing. The date on that I was given, and you can check out all of those dates. It's pinned at the very top of my Instagram page, a post that I channeled about all of the dates to come all the way through 2042. And I don't know at what point in the future I'll get to talking about it on the podcast, but for now, that's exactly where it is. And they said this is going to go on until 2029. And I know that's 4 years, but as you start to get out of the thick of it, it starts to lessen. So it's not going to be this intensity building and building and building and building and snapping and cracking you all the way to 2029. It's not like you have 4 years, or actually 3 more years of, the hardest that it will ever be. It's going to be challenging, but you're also going to reach the point where it's really, really challenging, and then it starts to taper off, because then we're going up into the higher frequencies, and that's going to become normalized, not just in the collective, but in our own lives and our own bodies. And that will be the new thing that we're normalizing, and that will be the new thing that we're validating. That will be the new thing that we're qualifying. Normalize, validate, qualify. And yes, that could be its own lesson and its own episode. My opening riffs are usually like their own entire thing, and they just come from pure inspiration. So I really hope that found you at the right time, the right place, and I know that it will help you. And if not right now, you're going to remember it in the future. You're going to be like, there was that one spiritual lady, and I clicked on her podcast, and she said, if you're ever shit deep in the mud, that you should normalize, validate, and qualify, and then you're going to be up out of that mud, hun. Okay, the other reason that I wanted to mention this is because as I have used from my own life this example, I want to say some very specific thank yous to the incredible people. I know not everyone on here uses social media, and it's not important at all. However you listen to this podcast and however you interact with it is right for you. But I am just so appreciative of those who followed me through this journey that I've been on in the last couple of months through social media and sent me kindness and like letters. Like, we don't write letters anymore, but like these DMs that you guys send me, I literally think of them as if I'm opening a letter that someone has written for me. They come from your heart, they come from your soul. You've given so much love and support, and I just want to say thank you. And I want to say it with like your name, and I'm just going to read some of these names straight from my Instagram DMs. Abigail, Carola, Kelly, Alicia, of course, the amazing Alicia Bryan, who's been on quite a few episodes. Those are our most downloaded episodes ever. Thank you, Alicia, for reaching out. Alice Kingsnorth, the amazing, the infinite, the incredible Alice Kingsnorth, literally an angel sent to help me with her frequency, and she has her own business and her own work. And so definitely go and check out Alice Kingsnorth and her incredible mother, Marianne, who is the one who met with me in London and showed me around, and we got to talk about all kinds of psychic stuff, but also her life there in London and the really important work that she does. And she also sent me a kind letter and kind words. Cassie, beautiful Cassie, she's always keeping it real in my DMs, and I love that. I appreciate real people so much. Janice, thank you. I love you to eternity and infinity and beyond. And there is no doubt in my mind that we will be united in person in this lifetime. I just love you so much. So thank you as always for not just for like your love, but also like your laughs, and like you listen to my crazy long voice notes that I send you. And I'm just so appreciative. Amanda from Illinois, literally one of the first clients I ever had when I launched Wellspring Official. I'm so glad that we have stayed in touch. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your support. Agnes, I know that we just met this year. You are so full of wisdom. I don't even know if you listen to the podcast, but I am so incredibly grateful for you. Your messages they were so short and so poignant, but they felt so powerful. She would literally just send me a message that says, "You are going to heal." And I could feel the power. And so if you want to follow Agnes, she's I Am Crystal Healing. She does incredible things with crystals all over the world. Francesca, thank you so much for being you. Brielle, thank you for tapping back in. The incredible artist Mowgli. I'll use your stage name, Mowgli Official. You can listen to her incredible music. It takes you to a totally different world. You can find her on Spotify, Apple Music. I'm sure all of the places where you can download music. Mowgli, Mogli. Thank you for just every time I ask for any kind of energetic support, you just send me that quick, like, done. It's done. I sent it. Like, it's already in the quantum field. And those messages are some of the most important ones, because sometimes that's all that you need. You just need someone to say, it's done. I've got you. That's how it feels. Sam, thank you, Sam. I have grown to just love you so much this year. I don't know where you came from. I don't know how you found me, but I do feel like we've had so many lifetimes together, and I'm just so excited for you to be inside of all of the work. And we're going to have time. You don't even know this yet, but we are going to have time one-to-one in the very near future. So I'm really, really grateful for you to be in this community. I don't know how long you've been here, but I know you and I have been talking this year. And you've been jumping into programs programs, and like you're like a lightning bolt. And so I'm really, really excited for what's to come. Francis, thank you so much for giving me an amazing laugh. Lily, the beautiful, mysterious Lily, I love you. Thank you so much. Jennifer, thank you again for your such kind messages. Tanya, thank you so much for reaching out. Carrie, thank you so much for reaching out. Yamaya, yeah, Maya, you and I don't know when it's gonna happen, but they're like when you and I come together in the 3D reality, when you and I come back together, because I know we have hung out in so many lifetimes, it is gonna be cataclysmic. And your love and your frequency, you're an angel on earth. And I'm just the work that you're doing in South America, you and your amazing husband, who is also in this community and also so incredibly supportive. You guys are, you're incredible. I don't have any more words that could possibly describe, but you are earth keepers. And we, on behalf of me and the natural world, I'm just going to speak for all of Gaia. We are so grateful to have you here as earth keepers, as galactic gardeners, taking care of the land, and your dedication to the land, and also the love that you have shown for me. I'm really, really grateful. And I really want to wrap this up with some huge gratitude, standing ovation. I'm getting emotional on these last two because these two women have shown me such unconditional love for years in this community, whether we're in a season where we're working together or not. Every single day, I know that I'm going to get a message from them, whether it's an emoji, whether it is letting me know what's going on in their life, or what's going on in their own energy. Rita, I love you. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. Your messages, your dedication and willingness and steadfastness, it is just incomparable. And the only person standing there at that level with you is Giselle. Giselle, Guido, like, there will never be enough words. I could thank you for all of eternity. I love you for all of eternity. You two are they're just incomparable. The support every single day. No one in my life has ever shown up for me the way that you two have. And we've never even met in person. But we have spent so many late night classes in the summer, in the winter, in the fall, in the spring, like late night classes together, courses together, memberships, programs. But even in those seasons when we're not working together, you guys never fall off. You're still so there and so supportive. And seeing both of you guys launch your Reiki energy healing businesses this year, I mean, I've had these moments of I just want to give you a standing ovation. I love you. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful that you're here. Please never, ever, ever underestimate what your messages mean to me, because they really mean the whole world. I know that's not everyone. I know there are so many more people, especially those who've sent me emails. I just went through like the top half of my Instagram DMs. I'm so thankful for you. And I never want to be one of those creators that people think if I send them something, they'll never read it, they'll never know who I am, or they won't care. I do care. And I read everything. I don't always have the energy to respond to everything, but one of the things that I told myself as I was coming out of this illness, when I had energy for nothing, is how I want to get back to everyone. Like, I want to not just give back to you, but I want to publicly thank you. I want people to know your name and know how great you are. And I want to show my appreciation not just with words but also with the actions and with the things that I create, because you are the reason that I do this. You're the reason I have something inside of me that wants to come out and be heard and be received by others. And it's like I threw a ball and you were like, I caught it. I've got it. I'm here. And I know there's so many more of you. I'm so grateful. So even if I didn't get to your name right now, I really want to get into the habit of reading, some of the messages that you guys send me, and just your first name, right? So not everybody wants to be out there. I just gave last names for those who I know have public businesses, and they are energy healers and energy workers, and like some of them are so cosmic and mystical. I'm like, I don't even know what it is that you do, but like here we are out here serving the collective. And but even if it's just a message from someone who's like, I'm not even really in that world, or I just woke up yesterday and I'm just trying to figure all of this out, I really want to get in the habit of reading just some of the excerpts from some of the messages you guys send me, and just letting you know how much I appreciate you. And if this is your first time ever listening to the podcast, just know it's been a very intense emotional couple of months for me. So yeah, the last episode and this episode, they are a little bit more on that note. So thank you for letting me do that. And let's get into the content today. The rest of the content, right? Because it's all so good and it all matters and it's all really, really important. Where I left you last on this journey, this is episode 171, which I love that the numerology is a 9, and that is completion. This episode, A Mastery of Light, is me concluding the story of my mastery journey. And the beautiful, naive being that I was before I had to go through the true dark night tunnel of illness and all of the rest that came after that. But there was these shining, glorious, beautiful moments, and I really want to get to share the rest of this grid work that I was doing there in Europe. And I want to start with just saying that way back in the summer, before all of this, and probably in like June and July, when I was just getting back to the United States, just trying to get my bearings, I was I had all of these downloads channeling through me every single day. And I did feel like, talking to some people in the community, like there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, that there was maybe this impression. I don't know if I gave this off unintentionally or if this was just some projections, but there was this bit of a misunderstanding that about what this mastery trip was and what it was not. So what it was not was, it was not a vacation. And I know that if you saw the video of me running down the street in Florence, Italy, holding a bottle of Prosecco with all of these restaurateurs in the background cheering me on, that it may, okay, I probably gave off that impression that I was on some sort of vacation. But at its heart, right, those were the moments when I was off duty. But at its heart, this was not a vacation. I knew that going into this. The only part that I really had in as my 3D self in planning this trip was that Abraham was going to be in Scotland. Abraham is channeled by the amazing Esther Hicks. I highly 1010 recommend if you want to completely change your life. I don't give a shit what anybody says about law of attraction. It fucking works, okay? Like just because something works doesn't mean you need to reinvent the fucking wheel to be original, okay? It fucking works. And I love Abraham so much. I have channeled Abraham. I have co-created programs with Abraham. And I just said, I want to come and see you in Scotland. I just feel like that would be really, really cool. And they were going to be in Edinburgh. That was my part. That was it. They were going to be there for 2 days, and I was like, I'll just pop over. I already live in the north of the north. Like, I practically live in Canada. Like, I'll just pop over. And if I see some sights, I see some sights. That was where my 3D self ended planning this trip. Everything else that happened, being invited to Spain, going to JJ's Avebury retreat, all of those were the light. And I refer to it as the light because that has been the verbiage that has been a part of my mastery journey. And so that is the point that I am at in my ascension. I am awakening all of my ascended master level codes and downloading them so that they can be of service to Earth and the collective and the New Earth architects as I continue this incarnation forward. That was just the point of activation that I was at the beginning of this year. And so my guide said, you're going to go on a mastery trip and you're going to just follow the light. And this was the challenge from my higher self, to listen to the light at every single step, to not move unless the light said move. And where's this light coming from? It's not an entity outside of me. It's a light inside of me. It is the clear knowing inside of me. It is the higher self inside of me. It is my own purest form of awareness inside of me that knows things that my 3D brain does not know. And so the challenge for me that I knew, had full warning of going into this trip, even before this trip, before I even bought the ticket for this trip, was, can you listen to the light at every single step? Because this is the way of a master. Listen to the light. The light says, we're going to sit here and stare at this beautiful flower for 3 hours. Sit there and stare at the beautiful flower for 3 hours. The mind does not like to do the things that the light says to do. The mind wants to do all the things that it likes to do because it thinks of its job as, I'm keeping you safe, but also normal. So that people don't see this woman sitting there in Hyde Park staring at a flower for 3 hours. But nevertheless, I was challenged to do this. And even leading up to it, the light had not told me that it was time to buy a ticket yet. It didn't say go, it didn't say go, it didn't say go, it didn't say go, it didn't say go. Okay, it's the Wednesday before. The light says, at 2 p.m., sit down at your desk, open up this specific flight website, and buy this specific ticket for this specific day at this specific time. Very clear instructions. Did the instructions make sense to my mind? No. There's an earlier flight, there's a different day, there's a this, there's a that, and the mind wants to do what the mind wants to do. My job was to filter out the noise of the mind and listen to the light and trust it. Completely, fully trust it, knowing that this light is coming from inside of me. It has my best interest at heart. And when I followed that light, it ended up being, for all kinds of reasons, the perfect flight at the perfect time and the perfect arrival and the perfect everything that could have possibly happened. Everything that seemingly went wrong, the light said, here's something better, actually. But you don't know that because the mind doesn't know what's coming in the future, but the light does. So every single step, I had to listen to this light. And I think that some people did not understand why I would do that, did not like that, did not appreciate that part of the journey at all. And I had some people who really questioned me on, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why wouldn't you just do it this way? This way that my mind is telling you is easier. And it wasn't about what I could perceive as the easiest way. What's easiest to the mind is what is known. And the light says, I know shit that you don't know. And as my awareness, I had to say, great, you know shit that I don't know. I'm going to listen to you. And it was disheartening this summer to get messages and have conversations with people that were really like questioning the first couple of episodes that I did about this trip and basically telling me like, you're doing it wrong, or like, why would you do it that way? Or like, something must be wrong with you. And I think most of those people have filtered out and on their way. But what I want to make really clear was every step of the way, this was my challenge. Every hour of the day, from the place that I ate breakfast to the place that I walked to the direction that I walked to a certain place. And every single step was a moment of intention. I would meet people that I had contracted soul activations with, even if it was just something so simple as a bump on the arm. I ended the last episode, A Spiral of Light, by talking about how I ended up on the plane to Amsterdam in exactly the place where I was able to offer energetic healing to people who had really serious illnesses all around me. And I did not know that that was foreshadowing. The light knew more things than it actually told me at that time about how the rest of my summer was going to go. But everything when I listened to the light was perfect. When I could not stand listening to the light anymore and my mind was just having a freak out and a meltdown, everything would start to go sideways. Everything would start, and I would be like, oh God, here it comes. Like now we've got to do damage control because the mind is like, I don't want to walk that way. I don't want to eat there. I don't want to go to that place. Like I want to do what I want to do, like a little child. And the moments that I did not listen to the light, everything went sideways. Every time I listened to the light, everything went perfectly, mysteriously perfectly. So I really want to make that part of this journey very clear that that's what I was there to do. I wasn't there on a vacation. I know these are many beautiful places that people dream about going, and I find them very beautiful too. And like, yes, I went to museums, and yes, I, ate at beautiful restaurants, and I enjoyed myself. But I was there on a fucking mission. So if there are parts of the story that don't make sense, or you're like, well, that's not what I would do if I was on a trip in Europe, it's because I wasn't on a trip in Europe. I wasn't on that kind of trip in Europe. I was on a mastery journey. And the other like most famous mastery journey that people probably really never talk about except in the Vedic tradition is when Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, Jesus the crystalline, when Jesus walked, literally walked from where he lived in, I don't know, Galilee or wherever he was with his family originally. And he walked across the Middle East all the way to India. That was his mastery journey. Nobody talks about that part, but you can go read all about it in the Akashic records. And in the galactic community, it's very well known. Yeshua went on this mastery journey all the way to India, learned all of the Vedic traditions, learned Sanskrit, learned about, the mind and the body and the soul and the Trinity and probably what we think of today as breathwork and meditation, and learned how to master all of that. That's why the Yeshua that you see in religion, who just showed up at 33 years old and is like, I am a master and I can do all these things, he didn't just wake up and was like, "Oh, fuck this carpentry shit. Like, I'm a master. Like, I'm good enough to walk on water. Like, watch me walk." No, he went all the way to India and learned how to do all of these things. He walked to India, you guys. There was no planes, okay? So I had the cushy version of the mastery journey, but it still really tested and challenged me because I couldn't listen to my mind. Like, no, I didn't have to walk all the way to Europe. I didn't have to row my boat there. But it really challenges you. And so in that regard, I felt this closeness to Yeshua and what he had been through all of those years ago under much more challenging circumstances and a much more challenging veil, but still the way that he mastered his energy. The only way that you pay your taxes by reaching into the mouth of a fish and finding the exact amount there is by listening to the light. That's the only way. And I always feel called to really talk about this part, and I've talked about mastery journeys all year. And I think it's because over the next 4 years, a lot of you guys are going to go on your mastery journey. And it's that time in your life where maybe you take a trip, maybe you have to walk somewhere, maybe you decide you were going to like walk across your country, or you're going to hike a really long trail somewhere that takes days and weeks and months. Maybe you are going to volunteer somewhere on the other side of the planet. I don't know what your mastery journey is going to look like, but there is going to be a time where what the fuck you're doing does not make sense to everyone around you. And that's probably when you're going to know, like, my mastery journey has started. I'm listening to this energy inside of me. It doesn't make logical sense, but we're going places and things are happening and supernatural things are happening. And I feel different than who I was before. So when that plane landed in Amsterdam, this was a time for me to rest. My guides told me, like, stay there for 10 days. You're going to rest. You're going to record some of this journey. Recording my journey and sharing my journey as a galactic record keeper, as a galactic historian, which are just some of the roles that I play in the Akashic Records realms, is really important. And I actually did that all through my illness too. Those of you who followed me on Instagram, you know that I said several times I was instructed to write down every single thing that I felt and that happened through every day of that entire illness, and that it was a whole record that was going to reshape the way that, the DNA and a bunch of different stuff in the future. But still on this journey, I had to record things, and not just a podcast, but I also had to write a lot of things down. And in fact, there was a moment that we'll get to where I was instructed to buy a specific notebook that has specific paper and to record specific messages inside of that notebook. I don't know what's going to happen to it in the future, but I feel like it's definitely going to fly out of my hands someday and go somewhere and do some things. So I landed in Amsterdam. I am so grateful to have been able to stay there with my friends from Spain. That is where they actually live, Sergey and Maria, to get to stay there and spend that time with them, and for us to just have personal one-on-one time, to do activations, we were doing like light language activations that was coming in really strongly for them, and to be of service more and to create custom activations. And I was also doing activations that some of you who had met me on this trip had then ordered from me. And so it was like we were still in this cycle of like doing all of this activating. I was also resting really deeply. And when I got to Amsterdam, I definitely felt this heaviness, similar to the heaviness that I felt in Bath and in London. And I knew that this city was going to have some clearings. And so the clearings that I did there, the one that was like really heavy on my heart, and I think that everyone should have this moment of deep inner contemplation when you go, if you ever go to Amsterdam, and I highly, highly recommend it. If you ever go to Amsterdam, recognizing what happened to Anne Frank, recognizing what happened there during World War II. And they have the Anne Frank house there. And we were at such a polarized place with things in America. And unfortunately, I can't really like reach inside myself and completely just, tear the part of myself that identifies as American out. I know I chose to be born here. I could have chosen anywhere in the whole planet, and this is where I chose. So this is part of the fucking story. Like I just have to live with it and deal with it and make the best out of it. And we're at a really challenging time. And so these topics around, what happened in World War II, what happened with Germany and with the Netherlands, and what happened to Anne Frank, and what's happening right now in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, and what's happening in Gaza. Like, these are all very on fire alchemizations that are happening here. So I knew that really was weighing on me. And I was like, what can I do to set some of this energy free? And my guides were like, well, you know what you can do. Clear the whole city and go all the way back. So they took me back in Amsterdam. We went back about 800 years. And I know that's much further than World War II, but we really wanted to reach very deeply into the earth. So when I'm doing this grid work that has to do literally with the land, and I want to clear density that has gotten trapped inside of buildings, wood buildings, brick buildings, that is trapped inside of really old furniture, and anything that has come from our natural world, right? That wooden desk that you have, it has the ability to absorb energy. Now, Amsterdam's a very old city and not that much has changed. They've got a few new buildings, but for the most part, it's so beautifully historically preserved. And I knew I wanted to reach very, very far down into the earth and bring up as much high frequency and clear as much energy as possible. And so I utilized the canals that they have there, the beautiful canals. I mean, they're just as beautiful and dreamlike as you see them in the pictures. And we went on a boat ride too that was surreal. It was absolutely my favorite day, my favorite moment of being in Amsterdam. And I utilized the water from the canals because water has this purifying energy. And I started underneath Anne Frank's house. And I was like, this is my moment to pay homage and to give back energetically to someone who at so young, and you can tell when they've had such a big impact on the planet and they were really young. Someone like Anne Frank, I think she died at like maybe 16 or 17. When they're really young like that and they make a huge, huge catastrophic impact on the planet. And there's hardly anyone on this whole planet that doesn't know that name, Anne Frank. That's when you know they were either an ascended master or an angelic incarnated. And they come in for these really intense, short, challenging lifetimes, and their impact ripples across the entire planet and across time and space. So, all of what we think of as history. And I really wanted to give back to that energy, right? It's like the volley of energy. If energy is coming towards you and giving you higher awareness and higher perspectives, volley that energy back. And now you're amplifying. When two beings of light come together, they create 4 times the amount of light. And so I started underneath her house and I just cleared all the way up. I mean, all the way. Thankfully, the Netherlands is not that big of a country. As someone who regularly does clearings on the entire United States, I'm thankful that it wasn't that big because then I can really, really focus on the land mass itself and I can really draw up that energy. And so I did a total clearing 800 years into the past, all of that density, cleared away so much negative energy from World War II, so much of the bigotry and the bias and the fear energy, and this energy that may keep other people who live in that city just feeling stuck, feeling like they can't move forward or like they can't take risks, like they have to just sort of stay in this safe lane. And just clearing all of that away and giving the city and all of the inhabitants now some room to really breathe and really letting all of that World War II energy and many of the other wars that have been in that area over the last 800 years. And that seems to be about the amount of time that's been quite relevant in other parts of Europe as well. And actually here in the United States too, when I did a clearing, I went back about 750, 800 years, which is much, much older than this country called the United States. So clearing all of that energy, really giving the city some energy to breathe. It is already such a beautiful city. But when it comes to energy and frequency, there's always higher that we can go. And I knew then when I finished the Netherlands clearing, I was like, I can't just do the Netherlands. Like, I have to do Germany too. Like, so much has happened there. And I believe that there is a vortex of higher light that is there in Germany. I have not had the opportunity to really explore the way that I would like to. I've been down to Bavaria, I've been to Munich, but I haven't really like gone all the way around and found like where is that vortex. But I would say it's probably went over like one of the really vast forests. But I reached my energy over there as well and used the land and used whatever it was elementally that I could find to drop a really high frequency out of the core, the galactic core of the center of the earth, and just draw all of that energy up. Typically, when I do these kinds of clearings, if I am feeling a little shaky in my own energy, as in maybe I'm a little tired, especially when you're traveling, you can get tired, you're changing time zones all the time. I will typically employ, I will activate, I will deploy angelic legions to assist me, and they are so at the ready for this. They are so ready and willing, and like they've got their finger, they don't have fingers, but they've got their light on the dial. And so I will typically employ, and I'll just kind of let it come to me. Like, what do I need for this? And like for something the size of Amsterdam, it's like you'd only need 12 legions. For the size of the whole Netherlands, you need 50 legions. Okay, now you want to do Germany, somewhere that has experienced so much density, so much polarization, and has been inhabited for a very long time. So we went back all the way, we went 1200 years, clearing 1200 years worth of density from the entire area known as Germany, just clearing away all of that. They have incredible natural forests, scenery there, and you can use all of that elemental energy to clear density that occurs in cities. And that's probably one of the best things I could ever teach you about grid work is that not all of that energy has to be, siphoned out of your own body. You're really directing the elemental energy around you to do these kinds of clearings. And I'm drawing this energy up out of the earth so that as it rises up, it's clearing everything in the buildings and the roads, inside of people's houses, inside of their work, and everything from 1200 years, clearing all of that away, bottom to top. And then that energy gets fully transmuted back to 0 point, excess energy returned, galactic core, or wherever it is that you want to send it. I typically send it straight back into, once it's at 0 point above the tallest tower, the tallest building in that landmass, zero it out up there with that air element, and then I will send it back into the earth to serve the land and to serve those people. So, what was once the energy holding you back now becomes the energy that inspires you. What was once the energy of scarcity now comes into your life as the energy of abundance and prosperity. And to answer a question that I got about this, when I'm clearing areas that have had wars, yes, I do see flashes in my third eye, in my clairvoyancy. I see flashes of things that happened during those wars, and I will see a lot of souls that maybe are still in the astral realm and haven't really been ushered out and don't really know if they want to leave, and they're kind of outside of, well, they are outside of time, and so they don't really realize how much time has passed. So we'll usually open up a couple of vortexes. That's just the word that I use for them. You can call it, I don't know, a tunnel of light. You can call their guides to come pick them up. However you want to do it is fine, but I typically open up vortexes of light because that's how they look to me in my third eye. A vortex of light, and all of the souls that are in the astral realm in that area of the earth. So for these two clearings, the Netherlands and in Germany, all of the souls that have died but not gone all the way fully back to the etheric realm, I'll open up those vortexes, and not only will I kind of usher them out, but I will also call all of their guides to come and collect them as well. So those were two really powerful, moving clearings that I was able to do in Northern Europe. And then when I completed my time in Amsterdam, I had originally intended to fly to Italy, and this was the part of the trip that Gaia came to me And she's never come to me for anything before, but her consciousness literally came to me as I was having a conversation with Ariel about, she's telling me like this is going to be a mastery journey and there's going to be other places that you'll go. And I was like, okay, like where? Because of course the mind wants to know. And Gaia came to me and she said, if you go to Italy, will you please clear the land there? And I was like, I will go to Italy any day, any day, anytime, anywhere, any place. I will go to Italy, right? That's my mind. I didn't realize that that was going to be the hardest one. Of course, the one that I thought was going to be like the easy breeziest, and then I'm going to be like tanning in the Italian sun out in the Tuscan countryside. Like, this is why my guide said, don't listen to your mind. Your mind just made up that fantasy, and listen to the light instead. And so, what the light was telling me as I was coming to concluding my time in Amsterdam was to go to Switzerland. And I had not had any plans to go to Switzerland. I have always wanted to go back. I find it incredibly beautiful. And obviously, to an American, everything in Europe feels so close. It's like, oh, like you're already here. Like, just go to this city, go to this country, like go over here, go over there. And that's because, it takes me 5 or 6 hours of driving fast just to get out of my one state, just to get to Oregon, let alone, flying somewhere. And so, Light was like, go to Switzerland. Like, you're going to go to Zurich, Switzerland, and I'm going to show you some things. This is where it got very interesting to me because I have always had this fascination with Switzerland, with them being this banking empire that serves so many other countries and people from all around the world with their banking, which has to do with money, which has to do with abundance and prosperity, but also density, right? Because a lot of the money that exists on Earth right now is trapped in density. And the other thing I found fascinating about them is that there were masters of banking and also masters of time. You get the best watches in the world, the best clocks in the world, the best timepieces in the world coming from Switzerland. So I was very intrigued about what could possibly be shown to me in Zurich, Switzerland. And so I flew to Zurich and I once again was listening to the light. I flew there and I sat in the airport and I was like, I don't really know where I'm going to go in the city. I hadn't booked anywhere to stay. And I was like, if I'm here for an hour and I, you know, do some work and then I fly out on another flight, like I'm totally fine with that. I will go wherever the light tells me to go. And right away, as I'm just sitting in this beautiful cafe inside of the airport, I can feel that there is an amount of density here that I was not anticipating. Because the other part of Switzerland is the natural beauty, and nature itself is purifying to density. So typically places that have a lot of natural beauty and they have Lake Zurich there, this huge amount of water, normally that will be sufficient enough to be offering some cleansing services to the collective, to the density that humanity is bringing into those spaces. But because of the tremendous density created by the banking systems there, juxtaposed with the natural beauty and the elements that we're trying to purify, it was hanging on by a thread. You've got a really powerful elemental energy, but you've also got a lot of density brought there by all of the money. And projected value, too. I really want to say that because coming from having a degree in art history, something that we learn about is, if you have a really valuable work of art that you don't want displayed in a museum or in a private residence, then you can bring it to Switzerland and they have these incredible vaults that are just for artwork. So there's a lot of, and all that art is projected value. So you've got all of humanity projecting onto this single work of art. It's incredible when you just think about the energetics of it. So you've got a lot of projected value. And it was like this huge weight weighing the whole entire city. And frankly, there's two big cities in Switzerland, Geneva and Zurich. And so it was really weighing this part of the country down. So I did end up staying there for 2 nights. And I had a lot of beautiful things that I wanted to do. When I wasn't working, when I wasn't clearing, I was like, I have this list of things like if I was on vacation in Zurich, Switzerland, this is what I would do. And so, funnily enough, my guides were like, do everything on that list. And as you're doing it, we're going to do clearings with you through each part of your day. And so it was like one jam-packed day. Like I had one full day there, and then I had come in the day before and I was going to leave the day after, but there was one full day there. And so we had this like really tight itinerary, and there was almost no wiggle room for in between it. But funnily enough, my guides helped me to get and to get to all of the places and do all of the things that my mind wanted to do, but also all of the energetic stuff that I had to do. And when we were working in such a beautiful tandem like that, it was such an incredible day. When I look back at it, I'm like, I still can't believe I got to do all of that in a single day. And I cleared an entire city while I was having fun. So I go into the city and immediately, like, energetically, I feel things like a weight. When there's a lot of density, I feel like I'm being pulled down. When there's very little density, I feel like I'm kind of floating up. And immediately I start to feel very, very dense. On the train into the city, there was some people fighting, and there was almost this like psychopathic man on the train. And he was like threatening to kill these other people who looked like they were probably drug addicted and maybe homeless, really, really struggling. And of course, you've got you've got me there on the train. I'm like, I'm about to, like, this guy's threatening this guy, and this woman's trying to run off the train, and you've got me sitting here, and I'm about to clear all y'all right now. So I offered those clearings to both of their souls, and yeah, there was just a lot of density right away, right when I got on the train. And so I'm like clearing and clearing and clearing and offering clearings to the higher selves of these souls that are there, and they're in gratitude and they're receiving it. And then I get into the city, and right away I'm like, I have to, like, I don't even have this croissant in my mouth, and I haven't even had my cup of coffee today, and like I have to clear the city because I felt almost suffocated. And it is such a beautiful city. Please don't misunderstand me when I say suffocated. I don't mean that it's this horrible place that you should never go. It's a beautiful place. And it's an incredible honor to be able to go to any of these places. But energetically, I was like, I know that there's something I can do right now. So I walk from the train station down to the lake. The lake is so beautiful. It is so clear. It is like, I am ready. Like, use me, like, direct me. Like, let's fucking go. Like, Zurich was like, they were ready. Like, and I love channeling bodies of water. One of the first channelings I ever did when I came out, I wasn't even out of the desert, actually. I was still in the desert. And I was in one of the rivers in Arizona, and I started to channel the river. And like I've channeled different parts of the ocean and different seas and different lakes and streams, even. And they all have this individuated consciousness that leads back to the mass consciousness of water, elemental water on our planet. And so I love working with bodies of water, and I just drew up all of the purification energy. Lake Zurich is really fucking big, okay? This is not your backyard lake. It is huge. I just drew up all of this energy, and then I employed, or deployed rather, what did we do for Zurich? We did probably about 60 legions, because I was like, this is really, really dense, and we're dealing with projection energy, which means that because Switzerland plays such an important role with people's money and valuables and luxury across the entire world, there are millions of people thinking about and projecting energy towards Switzerland all of the time. That's how these little places like Switzerland and Singapore get really, really dense very, very quickly. And you'll notice that both of those places are very expensive to live there, to visit there. Now, your 3D mind can figure that out pretty easily, the reason why that is. But take a step back and look at it energetically. Energetically, all of these people are projecting energy towards these small land masses all of the time. And it's just a weight dragging the energy there down. So, just for the city of Zurich, I had 60 legions of angelic beings channeling this water energy from Lake Zurich, going all the way down into galactic core of the earth, rising back up, coming all the way up through the city. And what was so fascinating is right in the center of the city, right where you think that it's going to, where the city kind of touches the lake, if you were to go a little bit inwards towards the city, just a few streets, a few blocks, there was this tremendous ball of pure density. And it was that weight that I had sensed right when I got off the train, like, oh, something here is really, really heavy. So you can imagine this giant, like, I don't know, cannonball that's like set inside of a blanket, and it just weighs the center of it down. And it was all projected density. And so we worked on that probably about 20 minutes straight. And at one point, I put my feet in the water because there's all these places where you can go swimming in Lake Zurich, and you can just walk off the street and go swimming if you wanted to. It was not a warm day by any means, but I'm from Seattle, so I'm used to the cold. So I put my feet in the water, and I allowed that to sort of ground me and help me to channel this water energy even better. And so we're digging through this huge ball of density, just deconstructing, lifting the energy, all the pockets of energy that we could get free from it, lifting it up, bringing it to 0 point, and then sending that energy straight back into the lake. We deconstruct, we purify, we cleanse, we bring back to 0 point. And eventually I was like, that's all I can do for now. Like, the angelic legions, like, keep going. You guys have infinite energy. I don't. So as a facilitator, I then got on a boat and I started going on this boat around Lake Zurich. It was so beautiful. I'm resting, I'm renewing my energy, trying to get that energy back. And I started talking to my guides about, like, what is the connection here between money and time? Because why would one country produce these two things simultaneously and be really, really well known for it? And you know what they told me? And I asked them this question probably about 6 or 7 times throughout the whole day because I just could not accept their answer. They said nothing. They said there is no connection between money and time. And I'm like, that's impossible, because humans literally think that time is money and money is time. And if I have more money, then I have more time. And they're like, there is no connection. All of that is projection. The only similarity that they share is that they both have the only common denominator between them is density. That's it. Humans project value onto dollars and numbers, and now more than ever, it's digital, so it is lightening up a little bit on the planet. But before, it used to literally be coins and paper. We would project value onto that, creating density, creating something with weight, so that when I look at $100 bill, my projected impression of that $100 bill is that it's worth more than the one that says $1 bill. €1, £1, £1 compared to its 100 opposite. Now, the only place where you can experience density like that, the weight of it, is in a time-based reality, which has to be in a third density reality because it's the only one that's heavy enough to stretch your experience and give you the illusion of time. You are that cannonball in the blanket. Just by being here and coming into that avatar, you take on all of this density, all of this weight, and you stretch the experience of infinity into a time-based reality. So here's like the little puzzle that they had me work on all day as I'm going all around Zurich. What if you could deconstruct your projection of time and money having anything to do with each other? What would happen? What would come out of that? If you can do that, there's this really juicy, beautiful answer waiting for you on the other side. And I'll probably talk about it again in the future, but I just want you to like take that little wealth code and just ask yourself, like, what if I could detangle this projection that I have that time and money have anything to do with each other than the fact that they both exist in a density, in a dense reality? If I could remove or start to unspool the knot that we have created around these two topics, tying them together, what would happen inside of your own reality, especially when it comes to money, abundance, and prosperity, if you stopped trying to tie it to time? Or rather, if you allowed yourself to energetically release the projections that you have towards time and money. So if you caught that, I actually gave you the exact instructions of what to do if you want to live on the other side of that reality. So throughout the rest of the day, not only did I work on that little puzzle with my own self and my own energy and projections, but we managed to fully clear all of Zurich. And then, of course, I had to clear the rest of the country too, because I just didn't feel like I could leave the rest behind. So I did a clearing, very intense clearing around Geneva as well. And then for the rest of the country, which was much lighter and much easier when you're not in those cities that do create a lot of density and a lot of projection. And then the next day I left. I got on a train to Milan and I went to Italy. I had such an interesting experience in northern Italy. It's very lush, it's very beautiful. I got to see glimpses of Lake Como, and I know I'll go back again in the future to really visit and see Lake Como, but I felt called to go to Milan. And I knew that I would go to Florence, and other than that, and wanting to see Tuscany again, I had no plan for what else I was going to do. I was like, all I know is that Gaia said, if you make it to Italy, will you please clear Italy? And I don't actually have to be in a country or anywhere around the world to clear it, but it helps me understand what it is that I'm clearing much easier if I'm actually experiencing that place, because I'm picking everything up through all of my senses, not just through my psychic sense. I'm able to get so much more information if I'm seeing with my physical eyes and hearing and tasting and touching and having conversations with people and getting to know their energy. So I was only in Milan for one full day, again, similar to Zurich, one full day, and I cleared the entire city. It was surprisingly light there. I don't know what other people's impressions may have been of Milan, but it was not super, super heavy. However, what happened, and I can't remember, I actually think that this was when I was on the train to Milan and I was deep in contemplation. I was leaving southern Switzerland and staring out the window. It's so beautiful. There's so many waterfalls. It's very lush in northern Italy. And I started to think about, what could the density here be? Now, here's the thing about Italy. When the Mars Wars were over, and when Mars was completely destroyed through their version of nuclear bombs, their version of nuclear warfare, when it was completely destroyed and Maldek was destroyed, we had all of these souls that needed somewhere to go. Many of them had originated or started their journey in third density inside of the Orion system. I know most of those souls. And because that was where I started my journey in third density inside of this universe. And then with losing Mars, which refused to host any more of these third density beings, and losing Maldek as well, we needed a place for them to go. The Earth experiment was already well underway. We already had a lot of Atlanteans here. We already had a lot of Pleiadians here. We had a lot of Arcturians and Andromedans. We had this whole experiment going with 22 seater races and 22 strand DNA that was dumbed down to 2-strand DNA. And we had these humanoid beings. So you had Lyran involvement and a lot of Pleiadian involvement. And you had all of these different races all over the planet. And I'll do a totally separate episode talking about, the 22 seater races and the mystery of those races and the mystery that surrounds the DNA. But suffice it to say, we were already hopping and bopping here. We already had shit was already going on. Lemuria was in the past. Atlantis was technically already in the past, but we had all these Atlanteans here because they'd started to create karma. And they were very quickly spreading that karma around places like Northern Africa, the Middle East, Greece, which was originally an Arcturian experiment that kind of got taken over by Atlantean energy, as did a lot of things on the planet. But we had this going on in that area of the world. And I'm very aware that that's only one area of the world. But for this story, that matters. So we had stories going on here, but there was definitely room for more. And so all of these souls started to funnel in from Mars and Maldek. And they created, this is the extremely abbreviated version because I can't possibly walk you through all of the nuances. You just have to remember that there is nuance. But essentially, these souls created what we knew as the Roman Empire. Because they were empire souls. They'd come from the Galactic Empire in Orion. They tried to create empires on Mars and Maldek. And they created the Roman Empire and marched all around and had all these wars and, did stuff. And some stuff was great and some stuff was really, really bad and not so great. And that's pretty much, if you want to sum up the story on Earth, some of it was great and some of it was really fucking bad. And when we look at the history of the Italian peninsula, what we now call Italy, and that used to be part of the Roman Empire, we see a ton of density in the land in that peninsula. In fact, to just hold the density itself, they had to place them in a peninsula country that is surrounded on 3 sides by water so that the water could essentially hold up energetically the density that these souls were bringing in thousands of years ago. And wherever there has been density like that, to that magnitude, likely no one has ever come along and cleared it. Now here comes 2,000 years later. Okay, 1,500 years later. Okay, 1,300 years later. If you really want to stretch the Roman Empire, whatever. 1,000 or more so years later, here comes on a little train the Lightbringer, and Gaia's like, hey, if you get to Italy, will you clear it, please? And I'm like, sure, it couldn't be that bad. And then I start to think of everything that I know in the Akashic records about the Roman Empire, and it's even kind of come up in our consciousness. There's this online joke, what's your Roman Empire? And how many men think about the Roman Empire all day? And I'm like, well, you think about it all day because that was 4 lifetimes ago. You really don't have that many lifetimes in 1,000 years on a single planet. You might have 4 or 5. So for a lot of souls, that was probably just a couple of lifetimes ago that you were, rip-roaring in the Roman Empire. And that density has kind of sat there and grown and morphed and fermented itself, and something else started to grow out of the Roman Empire. I'm already getting chills just talking about it because I haven't faced this motherfucker since I got bodily thrown, energetically bodily thrown out of Italy. Ass handed to me, put on a plane, go fly away, girl. And that megamorph monster is what we know as the Catholic Empire, the Catholic belief system, Catholicism, literally born out of the density left behind by the Roman Empire. Now, the Holy Catholic Roman Empire, morphing itself, growing itself, spreading itself until its tendrils are all over this planet. And I'm on a train thinking, oh yeah, I could clear the Vatican. I could clear the Vatican. Yeah. You know what? I'll just start right now. The second I tap into the Vatican, it was like a machine gun of negative energy went off and was like, don't you even try. My guides are like, you could totally do it. You can totally do it. This is what you got to do. If you get to Rome, like get to Rome, and then like you're going to walk counterclockwise 8 times around the Vatican City, and like we'll help you clear the whole thing. And I was like, okay, it's whatever's going on there sounds pretty intense, but like I'm down because I come from a history of religious trauma, and if I can lessen the load on this planet around religious trauma, I would love to do that. I don't think there's too many people that would fight me around the fact that the Catholic Empire has a ton of negative density in it. Maybe if you're still practicing Catholicism in your little pocket of the world, maybe you've purified that for yourself. That's your business. My business is on a global level. And so when I just look at it from the global level, I'm like, this is some serious density here. And it really has this, like, in the astral realm, this spiky, huge, like dark, not even a fortress, but like a dark palace energy growing out of it. And it is way bigger than Vatican City. It was stretching coast to coast. Now, that is on top of the density that was already left behind by all of the wars that were raged in the Roman Empire and time before that in that space, although those were very, very small, more like a skirmish. And then you also have what happened there during the World Wars. I mean, one of the reasons that people love Italy so much is because it's so rich in history, and any place that is really rich in history is rich in density as well. So there was 2 big projects for Italy, and one was clearing the land of all of the war energy, and the other one was kind of this secondary thought of like, well, maybe I could clear some of this really negative energy coming out of, the Vatican, out of Catholicism, out of like, this is like its home base, and I could just clear and purify it. And then all the people that want to believe in that, you feel more free, you feel more, empowered. And I know religions don't really want you to feel that way, but it was going to be for the highest good of all. I kid you not, from the moment I got off the train in Milan, everything starts going sideways for me. Everything starts going sideways. My first lodging that I had booked there ended up being a scam. No one ever came. It's getting dark outside. I'm walking across the city to go to another hotel. I've only been there for like 2 hours, and just things just start going, sideways, left, right, front, and center. But still, I'm determined. I'm like, Gaia asked me for this, and I don't think she would ask if it wasn't really important. Now, here's the end game truth. I have not finished the work of clearing Italy. It is so huge. It is so massive that I have to tackle it in pieces. And I first cleared the entire city of Milan. That was all clear. It was very light. It's not super dense there for whatever reason. And started clearing some parts in the north. And the second that I started to get into probably like the upper middle of the country, everything was so dense and so incredibly reluctant to be cleared. There were millions of spirits stuck in the astral realm, in that part of the astral realm on our planet. Meaning, not all of them are above land. Some of them are also like in the oceans, in the seas. People who have died in different wars through planes. People who have died in different wars through ships. All of the shipwrecks that have ever happened. All of these souls just literally everywhere. And now I'm surrounded on two sides. And it is so beautiful there. Please don't misunderstand. Again, this is just about energy and the astral realm and trying to clear and be of service to the people and to Gaia herself, who's hosting this whole party we've got going on. So I'm clearing in sections. I travel down to Florence, and I end up spending a few days there doing a past life completion. Some people call it a soul fragment retrieval, but essentially, I had a past life in Florence. I was sold as a child bride in the 1300s to this man who was very rich. He wasn't necessarily a part of the aristocracy there, but he was very rich, and so he had a lot of privilege, but he also was incredibly angry and abusive. I've talked about this lifetime in a couple of other podcasts, and ironically, I know the soul who was the man that I was married to. I know him. He's still a he in this lifetime, and I know him really, really well. And it's the only thing I can ever think about whenever I have to see or talk to that person, which thankfully is not very often, maybe like once or twice a year. But that's why I'm like, oh, we used to be really close. Now we're not so close because you used to hit me in the face, and I'm not over it. I mean, I am over it, but I'm not over it. So I spent this entire day just walking around Florence and feeling the energy and feeling all of the memories and feeling all of that come back. And I had to do a lot of my own inner work and put some of this clearing of Italy on hold because my own soul was really still holding on to some of these fears and resentments. And I had never been in a city. I haven't been in a city other than Florence yet where I had a past life on this planet and died. And I died pretty tragically actually, not tragically. I died pretty normally, how most women died back then, which was in childbirth. And I had a very abusive husband, and by the time I got through the childbirth, I just wanted to leave my body so bad because I just could not imagine staying there any longer, living with this monster man. And I feel so much compassion for the soul that I was then because I was nothing like how I am now. Now you see, the Lightbringer and all of the the mastery journey and like all the ways that I get to be independent and create and be outspoken and be an individual. But the truth is we all have these lifetimes where that is not us. We're still in here, but we're buried so deep under the density that part of us really doesn't get to come out. And the only power that I could find, which upon reflection in Florence, I realized in this lifetime was not really the only power that I had. But in that lifetime, I felt like the only power that I have is to die, to get out of here, to get away from this situation. Women had no rights back then. People love to look at history and be like, oh, remember when the Egyptians and like a woman could own a piece of property in Egypt and she was like in charge of the money? And I'm like, That's a really cute romantic story. That is still not how life has been for women on this planet. You can take a couple of examples from history. You can take an impression that we have of it, but that's still not how it was back then. In any of the civilizations, anywhere that you look, life as a woman on this planet has been exceptionally challenging. Patriarchy was not born here. Misogyny was not born here. In fact, they were born where I come from, which is back in the Orion system. These things have been festering for many, many millions more years than humans have been on this planet. So, getting here into this level of density as a woman, it's exceptionally challenging, and it always has been. No matter what romantic story people try to pluck out of history and say, like, in this place, women had this. And it's like, you might think that, but that's really was like an absolute bare minimum. We still didn't have so many the freedom in your mind. The freedom in your mind. I can think freely. I can imagine. I can dream. And in most of history, the best you could do in that level of density was just survive. So, really, no matter what story you pick, even queens, they did not have it easy breezy. They still had exceptional challenges. And when I say exceptional, I mean out of the ordinary challenges. And the reason I want to talk about this and not just focus completely on the grid work is because sometimes in our own lives, we experience tremendous challenges like what we are experiencing here right now in this point in time, in these economies, in the realities that we have created here during an ascension. Just like I talked about at the top of the episode, the ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. Sometimes that emotionally immature, that spiritually immature part of you might cling to this comfort that your trump card is that you can just leave this incarnation. If things get too hard, I'll just dip out. If things are too challenging, I'll just dip out. And if you've had those kinds of thoughts, I really want to encourage you to start examining them and say, what could my life be like if I fully committed to being here? If I let go of the illusion of this trump card, if I let go of this false sense of power and allowed myself to fully commit to being here, allowed myself acknowledge, validate, qualify myself to be here, how much more power could I actually feel in my own life if I wasn't always trying to keep this trump card in my back pocket? And that trump card is your belief that if things are just too hard here, that you'll just leave. I did do a clearing on Florence. I went out to Tuscany, I went to Siena, very beautiful, incredibly relaxing place to kind of get some of my energy back. All the while in the background, there's a lot of things that are going wrong. There are just issues that kept continuously coming up and challenging me, some of them having to do with travel, some of them having to do with personal. And by the time I get back to Florence, so I ended up going to Florence twice. The time I get back there, I am feeling so energetically drained because every day I'm trying to do these clearings and I'm doing them piece by piece because they are so massive and there's so much. And I'm employing and deploying all of these angelic legions to assist me. And all of these earth elements and Gaia herself, because I'm like, hey, you wanted this done. You're going to have to help me with it because it's such a massive job. But the truth is my energy was really, really dwindling. It was extremely hot there. I'm from a cold place. So when it gets really hot, I just melt. I'm not used to it. And every day I'm like putting all of my energy into these clearings, putting all of my energy into these clearings. And I'm just getting, piece by piece by piece. And part of the challenge with Italy was, even though with like Germany, I went back, I don't know, 1200 years, and I went back, I think like 1,000. I went a lot in England. No, I think I did 2,000 in England because they also had some of the the Romans made it all the way to the island. And so I have done about 2,000 years worth of clearings. Italy needed like 5,000 years worth, 6,000, 7,000, way beyond the Roman Empire. It's just incredibly dense how much has happened when you start to get into the really ancient parts of the world where we have been inhabiting and populating and bringing density for thousands of years. I had also planned to go to Egypt this year, and I am so grateful that that little plan did not work out because I still struggled with doing these, 5,000-year clearing on this one tiny stretch of Italy, on one province or one city or one area of land, and really working piece by piece by piece, trying to get through all of that. And it wouldn't be true that, every trip I go on, I have to, clear the whole place. But a lot of the travel that I do now has to do with my work and my service on this planet and what it is that I want to do. I want to do these things. I want to offer this back to Gaia, back to humanity, back to people who will never know my name. I want to offer it to them. My love language is gift giving, and this is one of the ways that I can give entire cities a gift, to feel a release from the density, to feel a lightness, to feel more possibility, to feel like your dreams are possible, to feel the love light intelligence once more getting through the density instead of it being diluted by the time it makes it through density to you. So yes, I absolutely took breaks when I needed to take breaks, but the truth is that Italy was the hardest part because no matter how many legions I had and how much work we were doing, it was just such a tremendous job. And there were 3D things happening as well that was very much throwing me off. I have to take care of my 3D body. I have to protect it. I have to feed it. It has to have somewhere to sleep at night. It has to have a shower. And if it's really hot outside, sometimes I need to have multiple showers per day. So there was a lot that was going on, and I felt an energetic attack coming from my not even attempt to clear the Vatican, but really just me feeling out the Vatican, which tells you how serious that energy is there. I'm not really afraid of a lot of things, but I will 100% say the Vatican's energy was fucking with me. Okay? It was fucking with me. So by the time I'm done in Tuscany and I'm like, I've got to go. I don't know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go south because I just came from the north. I'm going to go south. And I went to Rome. I absolutely had this feeling because I was starting to get very tired. I was starting to get very worn down. The trip itself logistically had to come to an end within that week because my parents were watching my dog and they were going to go on a trip at the end of June. So like I knew a 3D date that I had to be back in the United States. But other than that, I was very flexible and I was still continuing to try to just listen to where the light is leading me. And so I went to Rome and I was like, I'll stay here for a couple of days. If I feel like I am going to continue on and go all the way down to the bottom of Italy, go to the coast or something, then I will. But if not, this is where most international flights leave, and I can get an international flight back to the States. I swear the Vatican's energy was just like watching me the whole time. Like it was like watching me on that train from Florence to Rome. Like it had its the fucking eye of Sauron on me the whole time. And I felt the ick. I felt like there's negative energy in the astral realm and it's coming at me, and I'm doing everything I can every day, every hour, but it is looking for that opening. It is looking for that moment when my guard's down. It is looking to connect with me in my dreams, which is the astral realm. Now, I have been to Rome one other time, and it was okay. It was fine. I was very young. I was like 18, so I really couldn't appreciate it the way that I've appreciated my travels as more of an adult. I get to Rome and I'm like, all right, I'm like 15 years older than I was the last time I was here. I have new eyes, a fresh perspective. There are things that I really want to see in this city from past lives that I had in this city. And from the moment I get there, I start to immediately have, and I am not blaming Rome or Italy or the people of Italy. This is 100% like the Vatican's energy just fucking with me. I start to have the worst experience of my entire life. It was such a nightmare. From the places that I tried to eat, the place where I tried to stay, I will not discuss all of the details because I had to go into litigation over this. I almost died in the hotel room at this hotel, and it was such a freak moment, and I say freak as in like just the oddest of circumstances that this would actually happen, that I was like, I can't take it. Like, this dark energy is fucking with me. They don't want me here. They do not want me to clear this place. And you know what? I don't have to be in this city dealing with this shit to clear this place. So I ended up staying, I think, for 2 or 3 days because there were so many issues with me trying to get a flight out, with me just trying to be in a hotel room where I was not going to die. Just everything, every single place and every single thing, there was an issue. There was one night when like this man was following me, and there were so many things that I was like, nope, nope, it's not worth it, because this energy, this specific group of energy just doesn't want me in this city near it. So it's fine. I will leave. I will get out of here. I ended up spending the last day really just like sitting around my hotel waiting until I could go to the airport, because I was like, I'm just not even going to touch anything here. I don't have the energy to deal with it. I don't have the energy to deal with a psychic attack. And my level of psychic protections is probably one of the most intense levels of psychic protection. All of the things that I set up around me and in my energy field, no one's allowed to read my energy. If you ever think that you're reading my energy, you're actually reading a false construct that I set up that meets people who try to read my energy and like feeds them false stories. Like, I have such a level of protection, especially in the astral realm, because it is a realm of duality. It is a realm of density. That's why you have nightmares there. That's why icky things happen. That's why people have near-death experiences and think that, something was trying to drag it to hell, when really it's the lower astral realm. And if I'm going to be someone who works there, and I do feel called to do this work, this astral deconstruction work, then I have to be prepared for what I might encounter. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about this Vatican energy is that I went to the Vatican City. I went and saw the Sistine Chapel. I saw St. Peter's Cathedral. Like, I did a whole huge tour. This 3 tours in one day. The first time that I went to Rome when I was 18 years old. And for a long time, I felt like I could remember the tour perfectly. And ever since I just even had the temptation to clear it of density, I have found all of my memories about it completely distorted and like pockets of it missing. Now, of course, that's just in my local memory. So, your local memory bank is like when you think about something in the past, that's called your local memory bank. Of course, I can retrieve all the details I want from my Akashic records and my soul cosmic memory, etc. But I find it very interesting that this situation happened and they've started to fuck with my local memory banks. And it's like, how did you even get in there? So I've had to set up some, energetic protection around my local memory banks. I'm like, not only did you try to fuck with me, but you also are just like fucking with my memory, like anything you can get a hold of. So it was really a no joke experience. And from the moment I got on the plane and left Rome, I felt the energy just kind of leave me alone. And it was just kind of like, don't come back here. I will be back. I will be back. But I'm getting wiser and I'm getting smarter and I am getting more strategic about what needs to go into some of these really big, intense energetic clearings. So when I got on the plane and left, I went to beautiful Ireland and I was only there in the airport, but I immediately felt this energy from the Andromedans just coming up and renewing and refreshing me. And I started to have this re-strategizing meeting with myself. And what I told the 90 Arcturian Council, who's been very interested and has not only assisted in many of these clearings, but they're also gathering a lot of data from these clearings. They are figuring out where are the big knots of energy on the planet in the astral realm through my experiences, because it is too dense for them to come and explore it on their own. You guys, I kid you not, I just had to stop the recording because like one of my ears went like completely flat. It felt like someone like smacked or like boxed my ear. So just even talking about it, that negative energy there is like, don't talk about me. Too fucking bad. Too fucking bad. In the time since that I've left, I was talking about the re-strategizing meeting. What I told the Arcturians is there needs to be some breaking down of this density. There's no way that one person or even a group of light workers could come together and clear it. We would need hundreds of us. We need something that can start to break down the energy, ideally from the inside out. And I do believe that with the different popes switching over, that they have kind of been working on that with different souls and kind of seeing like, how light, as in the least amount of density, how light can a soul be that can actually inhabit this space and this place and this role. Over the last few months, what you may have seen is that the Vatican started to host musicians to come there and have these concerts. And one of them was John Legend, who I love, and I follow him on Instagram, and I found it really, really fascinating that he was willing to go there and to do a concert there. And I realized like, oh, they took my conversation with them about like we need people on the inside to start breaking apart the energy. It's too dense, it's too powerful on its own. And they started to bring in the power of sound, of vibration from a high frequency through these concerts that they have been having there. And it has done wonders to start breaking apart the energy, to start in this energy. When you're in the astral realm, a lot of these energies, they're very sentient. They are very aware. They can take on personalities. They can create their own monsters. And it's not pretty. Not everything in the astral realm is pretty. But I found it incredibly strategic and intelligent, which I expect no less from the Galactics, that they decided to go in with sound vibrations, because sound vibrations are so strong, they are so powerful, and it starts to break apart density. And the closer you are to the mass of it, the more that it will seem like the density is breaking apart from the inside out. So, all in all, we are not done with clearing Italy, and I don't think that we're done clearing some of these more ancient parts of the planet. Now, when it comes to my mastery journey, I got on the flight, immediately started to feel better as I was leaving Italy, which is such a shame because it is such a beautiful country. The food is amazing. So many of the people are amazing. And really, this just has to do with my energetic experiences and not with, would I go on vacation to Italy? And the answer is yes, I would absolutely go on vacation to Italy. Again, I hope to go there many more times in the future, but this was not a vacation. This was a mastery journey. And little did I know, the mastery journey did not end when I got on the flight to go home. In fact, it almost felt like it just began. It almost felt like the trip itself was this prelude, and like the actual mastery part began the moment I got on the flight home. I mentioned that I would tell this story. So when I was in Milan, I was at the Galleria, the very famous one, and they had this bookstore there. I love books. I go in, I'm walking around, and the light tells me, get this notebook. And I already have a notebook that I was traveling with. I always bring some paper and a pen because I don't know, maybe in that way I'm a little old school, but the light was like, get this specific one. It had these like kind of like peacock feathers, but this like motif all around it that kind of looked like peacock feathers. And peacock feathers are associated with Ascended Master Lakshmi, who is the embodiment of wealth consciousness in our universe and a core essential entity in the Archangel Ariel social memory complex. And those are both what I consider part of my guides and part of my larger oversoul when it comes to this universe. So I see those motifs and I'm like, all right, I feel the light is telling me to buy this specific notebook, even though I literally had like almost an identical one that was empty with me. But I buy it, and the second I sit down on the plane, the light is like, open up that notebook. Here are all of these transmissions. I was writing for hours. All of these transmissions just pouring in, pouring in, pouring in. All of them were wealth codes. And I will be sharing many of those codes with you guys on upcoming episodes. And you'll know them because in the title, I will put wealth codes. So I'm very excited to share that part of the journey. And when I feel ready, I will share what happened the rest of my summer and what this illness diagnosis was and my experience inside of it, which was really where a lot of the alchemical. It's where the whole alchemical transformation happened this year. I had this death, and that's what my guides called it. They're like, the moment you got that diagnosis, your old body died and your new body is being born. And so it is quite energetically intense right now. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that this was illuminating. I hope you don't go to bed with, nightmares about the Vatican. It's not coming to get you. It just had a little personal beef with me, and that's fine. I can handle it. But don't dwell too much on that. And I do hope that you will return for the following episodes. I am grateful to be in a place where I can conclude the Mastery series. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And again, if you feel called to any of these clearings that I have talked about, this grid work, this energy work that I have been up to in the astral realm, you can just set the intention to join your energy to it, and your oversoul will assist. And again, you can pick and choose. Maybe you want to stay away from the, any entanglements with the Vatican. So maybe you're just like, I'll help you with the Netherlands or with Germany or with England or, any of the other places that I went. That's totally fine. I totally understand. I just want you guys to know that it's possible for you to join your intention, and it's also possible and highly probable for you to do this work yourself. And I look forward to teaching you more about it. I will be teaching an entire course called Lightbringer, Energetic Mastery and Gridwork. It is included inside of the Ascension Academy, and there will be an opportunity to purchase it on its own. We will go into all of the details about how to do this work safely, securely for yourself and for the collective. So you can find out more about joining Ascension Academy at wellspringofficial.com. And you can also, if you feel a warm, tingling sensation when I talk about wealth codes, you can find all my collection of wealth codes inside the Prosperity Portal. Again, you can join any of my programs individually or through the portal programs that are a year long on wellspringofficial.com. Thank you so much, beautiful beings. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you on the next one.